Okay.
Right. Well, I've had the pleasure of being here for a week, and this is the 18th trip over 23 years of knowing you. Sorry, I came back. But for those people at home and other areas of the UK or in the world who haven't had the pleasure to see you and see you work horses yet, I think it'd be nice to hear some of your stories. And let's start with, how did you get started having a life with horses and working in this way?
Well, I was born into it. My parents had horses, and so I didn't have much choice. I was on a horse when I was 6 months old, and always had a bunch of horses, mules, donkeys, something around, and it was kind of my escape to be around the animals. I enjoyed more than the people most of the time, so I spent a lot of time around the horses and stuff, and had a lot of exposure, everything from my own parents to people they associated with that had worked with horses and did something with horses. And so I was exposed to a lot of different stuff. But if you're thinking about it, if you're aware, you see a lot that you want to remember. Now, whether that's because you want to repeat it or you want to make sure you never do it. And so I could go way back and talk about some things, but in watching and thinking about how a horse was responding to what was taking place there, it became evident to me that the horse's mind was often out somewhere far away from what was taking place, wishing they could get away. And if you got their mind there, it seemed things went a whole lot better. So I feel fortunate that I got to thinking about that as early as I did. And most people don't think about a horse's thinking at all. But I don't know if that, if you'd have seen me as a young child, you wouldn't have said I was horse crazy. But I was around them all the time. But I wasn't necessarily horse crazy, but like you hear people, because, we had dogs and goats and cats and chickens and all kinds of critters to terrorize. Didn't just have to do horses. So over time, just got more and more involved with the horses, I guess. And horses were a means to an end at some level, because we used them cattle work, and I worked for some other people. Got a lot of wild cattle and stuff, and so the horse was a very useful part of life. And yet, I tried to see how I could make that as good as I could for the horse. And,
was this something that was this a story you remember? Something you remember that got you thinking about the horse's thoughts?
When I was small, I had an incident with some horses, and I got banged around a little, and it put a lot of fear in me. And I had a lot more fear on the ground than I think most people that were around me realized. And so I would, my self-preservation was pretty high there. And you begin to see that a horse's self-preservation, when it kicked in, mine had to. And so I was looking for a way to avoid that. And if a horse was mentally present, thinking about what was going on, and believed that he chose to be there instead of knowing that he was forced to and wanting to be somewhere else, then my self-preservation didn't have to kick in.
It sounds like you were also able to feel how the horse was feeling.
Well, I say that the level of fear I operate on um, made me empathetic to that horse's level of fear. Um, and I see a lot of people that it doesn't seem to matter to if the horse is upset, nervous, worried, scared half to death. As long as they can force an outcome, it doesn't matter. But that's not a good feeling. And I recognize that. So try to avoid that with a horse. Not that you always got it done, but you were attempting.
Can you give us I've been here for a week and I've watched you put that into practice with the horse, but could you give an example to help people at home to, you might be thinking, how do you direct a horse's thoughts?
Well, to me, the starting point is to get their mind with you, and that doesn't have a lot of meaning to some folks, but if you have a horse in the pen or online, either one, if their mind, if they're still thinking how good it would be to get back with their friends, they're tugging on the end of the line or running the fence or trying to get away from you somehow, and if they've had any bad experience or had no experience with a human or had any bad experiences with a human, then they want away from you, and they know how good it is out there where they spend most of their life, and so they're not here mentally present to even hear what you're trying to do. And so if you can do something to get their mind here, to get them interested in what's taking place here, and that is a mystery to some people when you say get them interested here, and it's sometimes it's not a nice thing to talk about necessarily, but sometimes it's necessary to put some worry in it, to do something that's worrisome enough here that the horse can't be thinking anywhere but here. But then you've got to get the worry out of it and get the horse confident with what you're doing. So he isn't thinking about being somewhere else, but people often are trying to get the horse okay, calm, quiet, relaxed, and in that process they have a very dull, unresponsive horse.
Oh, so they're kind of trying to suppress the situation.
But the other end of that is they do something that worries the horse, and then they leave him in a worried state, and then you have a reactive horse. And somewhere in between there's a spot where the horse is mentally attentive to what's taking place here. And when you get a horse's mind right here where his body is, I want to say captured, because that's how he feels at the start, is he captured on the end of a line or in a pen. You get his mind right there where his body's captured, the peace is restored at a very high level.
Yeah, I've seen that this week, the change. You see, you start to work with a horse and they change how they feel, and then that in turn changes how their body looks. It changes everything, the whole picture, when you attend to their mind, which seems to then attend to their emotions, which then changes even their balance.
It starts with an understanding. And it's our understanding, and I say ours so people might relate themselves, but it's our understanding that runs our emotions. Then our emotions affect our activity. But people often think that our emotions run our thinking somehow. Mm-hmm. But it's not. It's the thought that runs the emotions that runs the behavior. And so people are always after a horse because they want a different behavior. And you can elicit a different behavior, but the horse doesn't feel any different. Yeah. He doesn't feel any better. He might. Never, but he might. But a lot of times people are trying to get a different behavior. And they haven't cleared up the understanding. So it just comes back, comes back, comes back.
So when people say, oh, he hasn't remembered that, it's not that he hasn't remembered. He just didn't have.
It was never really as clear as it should be in the first place. And yes, he did a lot of things, especially if a horse had a bad experience. It'll be like starting over. You get a nice change. You work there and get things look a lot better. and the next time you start on it, they'll revert back to that thing. But then it'll come through so much quicker. By the third or fourth time, it's coming through really soon. You get that change. And one day, you wouldn't even see that. Now, it might rear its head months, years later. The right stimulus come in there. You can't erase an experience. For us or a horse, either one, you can't erase the experience. You try to override it with a new understanding, but that can be pretty hard, because if a horse has proved to him how bad it is, how much proof does it take to override what's already been proved? And so you'll repeat it a lot of times, sometimes trying to help them feel better about it, and they'll want to revert back to that. And one of my favorite little sayings is how, so they're started, so they go. And a lot of people think that just, when you say started, they think about starting their saddle. But it's how they're started on their exposure to humans, how they're started on their leading, how they're started on picking a foot up, how they're started on anything. Those initial experiences affect way down the line. And the more traumatic it is, the stronger a horse hangs on to it.
So, what do you, to you, this is so clear that we should all be attending to a horse's thoughts. But why is it not why do people not do that naturally? What do you think gets in the way of, what are people struggling with the most to not be able to do this? What is it stopping us from seeing things the way you're seeing things?
Wish I had a good answer. I don't know. People, as the years go by, there's more of it. But it used to be, I ran into a lot of people that said that they never even considered a horse had a thought.
Oh, really? Right.
And they just, trying to make it do something, change the behavior.
Like a machine.
Yeah, like a machine, and not deal with its thinking. And you talk about a horse's thoughts, and people act like that's some far out there thing that they can't get a hold of, or is unattainable or something. And it's amazing how easy it is a lot of times to have that horse's thought with you. And so why do people miss it? I don't know. No consideration of what the horse is going through.
Yeah, I think I said to you once, what was the most important thing for a human to develop in themselves to do the kind of work that you're doing? I think you said the word was compassion or empathy.
I use the word empathy quite a little, and it seems like I see a lack of that in a pretty big way, but you see it between people, so why should we think that another species would be any different? It's more complicated. People don't see, and a horse doesn't have the, I'm going to use the word sin nature that a human does. They have no ability to think about how to do something against you, to you. That just isn't a horse's way of thinking. It's not in there. And so they don't, but people want to impose that on the horse. They want to blame the horse that the horse did it against them. And it's nothing personal. That horse doesn't care who your mother was, how big a house you live in, how much notoriety you have. They don't care. If you treat that horse the same way I treat that horse, they'll give us both the same kind of response. But if you can fill in for that horse's wants and needs in a way that I'm missing, then it'll look pretty good with you, and it might look like a mess with me. But people don't see that, and it's amazing how people miss what they're doing is affecting what that horse is doing in such a big way. And it can be such little things that make the difference. It's kind of scary sometimes how little things make the difference in how horse is operating or how he's feeling about how he's operating. That affects how he's operating.
So you're just very in the moment is what you're saying, to be able to adjust to every.
Well, I hope.
That's your goal. Yeah.
A horse that's the only place a horse lives in the moment. And people get confused. You say that, and then you turn around and talk about the experiences that they've had. But they're in this moment only. They aren't dwelling on the past. They aren't planning on the future.
And whereas we are.
Where we are often, we're thinking about something that happened in a discussion this morning, or we're planning supper for this evening.
Yeah.
As we're trying to do something with the horse. But the horse is just here. But see, how he responds is determined by the experiences he's had in his past. He's not dwelling on it like a human would, but it's influenced his responses. So if something terrorized him and he sees that that's something he's going to do the best he can to save his life, whatever that takes, maybe even hurting himself in the process.
Yeah.
But he's going to do what he can to save himself. But he's in this moment. It's this moment that he's dealing with, not dwelling on the past or planning on the future. Well, most people aren't in that moment with the horse, where he's at, seeing his needs and trying to fulfill those needs so that he can feel good. With everything we do with a horse, is something that we have seen a horse do, that a horse naturally does. We don't ask anything that a horse wouldn't actually do, at least at the start of it. Now, we might build that into something that you may never seen a horse do, and especially you get into what a lot of people talk about, tricks and stuff. See? But it all starts with a very natural thing the horse would do, and then you kind of build that into something else. But in our normal riding and stuff, a horse will go out here in the field and do it better than he does for us. Well, why? Because it comes from here. It's his idea. See, when he thinks about doing it, he gets his body ready to do it. We're trying to make him do this. He's wanting to do that. Whether that's to save his life or because he's interested with his friends, whatever. He's wanting to do that. We're trying to do this. And every moment that he's working at this, even when he's working at this, if he's still thinking about that, his body is prepared that when this is over, he can do that. And then we're trying to make him shape a certain way, position his feet a certain way, all these things, when we're just fighting against what his mind is telling his body to be prepared to do. You get him to think to want to do what you're asking. He forgets about that. He thinks this. He prepares his body to do it. You don't have to shape him and make his body do it. But I see people struggling with that all the time, trying to make them. Because they've been told he should step a certain way, he should bend, so he should. Well, that's how a horse does it. When he does it well, naturally on his own, yes, that's correct. But between now and when that is really working, it might not look very good. But such a high percent of it is his mind isn't telling his body to get ready to do that.
So that's extremely troubling for them, I imagine. That they want to be there and you want them to be here. That.
Well, if you've never been in a situation where somebody was trying to get you to do something here or listen to something or learn something here and you desperately want to be there, then you've lived a better life than I have. But I relate. You can't take in the information that's being presented here.
Yeah.
And so we do something with a horse, show him, try to help him feel better, blah, blah, blah. But his mind is so gone, he didn't need to take this in. Next time it is like starting all over again.
Yeah.
But you get him here, thinking about being here in a relaxed frame of mind, but what they take in is me.
Yeah. Goodness. That's a lot for people to take in listening to this. They'll be thinking, well, how do we do this?
I got to tell one little quick story. But I, years ago, used to do some little demos, start a young horse or something, come into an area that I've never been before, and they want you to do some kind of demo. And anyhow, I started a horse that was fresh out of the pasture, just been running out most of his life. I think he was leadable from the trailer to the round pen. They, I think, had trimmed his feet, few things like that. But other than that, he wasn't exposed to anything. And they bring him to the clinic, poor thing, and I attack him. And it took me probably an hour and a half there, and I was riding him. And he's an Arab thing came along.
Sensitive.
Oh, yeah, but not messed up. See, no ugly baggage.
Yeah.
But the point I want to make is that that horse was not in the clinic. They just brought him for the demo deal.
Oh.
So the next year I go back, same place, do a clinic, and they show up with the horse to be in the clinic.
Right.
And I said, well, what have you done with him last year? Oh, we trimmed him and vaccinated him. You haven't done anything yet? No. So I took the horse in the round pen, and it probably took 45 minutes I was riding. It was just like it had been the day before.
And that's 12 months, was it?
Yes. And I see that, and I think about people struggling so long, with some of this. And because he didn't have the baggage, and he took information in a relaxed state. Yeah. It was there just like it had been yesterday.
The clarity.
Yeah.
And the confidence.
And it's almost scary.
Well, it puts a big responsibility on us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know what to ask next. That's such a big one. It fascinates me. It's happened a few times, and I'm interested in your thoughts on it. How I'll go to do something, and I didn't think I prepared, and the horse has noticed it, or it seems to be aware of what's about to happen, and I didn't think. I mean, my example is it was a place I worked for years ago, and there was a few horses in the pasture, and we'd have to go out, and some of them would be caught to be ridden, and some of them would be caught to go to another pasture. And I thought I carried the halter the same way. I thought I walked the same. And there was one mare, and every time it was her day to be ridden, she walked only 4 steps. She'd walk off. You just have to cut ahead of her. On the day she was going to the pasture, I thought I was sheep. I mean, I still don't understand that. Can you? I mean, what is going on? What is your?
It makes you wonder in some of those areas. And a big one when people are going to ride, and they're going to catch their horse loaded in the trailer and go somewhere for a ride, and that horse is almost uncatchable. And every other day of the week they could walk out there and catch him, take him to his stall or do something. But there's so much more aware of what's in us, what they're just aware of stuff we're missing, and. It is an amazing thing that their perception, what they're aware of, the little things, is just amazing. When we just babble along so crudely,
compared to them,
yes.
In our own world.
Yeah. I was here again. I got to tell a story. Riding with some people, a clinic setting, but we went out. We went down a street. It was a fairly residential, but it was an equine community. So there were bridle paths and stuff. But anyhow, we ride out, and we're going, the houses got a little more sparse, and way up there ahead was a fork in the road, and the lady who was running the show, we were going to go to the left, see. Well, the people in the front, there were 2 riders up there, as I recall, and they kind of swung into this V, and I could see that they swung in to wait for us, because they didn't know which way to go. They got to that V, and they just swung in. They're going to stop. Well, as soon as they got off what she thought was the right track, she went to screaming, just screaming her head off. No, go left, go. And to me, it was so blatantly apparent that they were no more going to go right than anything. And she was so unaware of what was shaping up there. And she was in a half panic thinking they was going to go there. Well, what if they had of it? Wouldn't have been a big deal if they had of it. But But it just told me how unaware she was of what was
actually happened
to be seen in what was taking place there. But she couldn't see that. See,
yeah.
and the lady had several horses over the time I was around her. Couldn't get along with them.
Yeah, it's
Well,
sad.
You know, if she couldn't see that, what was she missing in her own horse trying to help her?
That reminds me that looking at a distance, seeing it
Mhm.
shape up. Is it right? You've mentioned before that you see yourself riding from above. Is that? I'm sure you've mentioned something about that. I know in your dreams, if you ever have a dream, you say you see it.
Well,
Is that in the riding too?
I won't say that in the riding I see myself, but my memory of that ride is always third person from.
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Your memory of a
Yeah.
ride is third person.
Yeah, I'm not on the horse looking at it. I'm over here watching me. Now, I didn't watch me, so how accurate is the picture? See, it makes me doubt my own thoughts and memories.
Yeah. But it's
And I say always. There are, I can see and feel what's taking place with a horse under me, but most of the time it's from out here.
That is interesting. I think back to times over the years I've seen you ride, and there'll be somebody riding their own horse, and it is very crooked, and it's falling here, falling there, not going straight. And you get on, and it doesn't take long, and we're all thinking, well, what exactly did he do? And now that horse is going straight. Now, how do you line their mind up like that to help them come straight?
You don't let it leak out anywhere. Well, that's a real clear one.
I'm not sure people are going to get that. Is that the seeing it set up, riding ahead of where you are?
Most people are riding the last step that took place. They're trying to fix the last step that the horse got off the line or out of whatever. They're trying to fix that. Well, you don't fix that. You can't fix that. It'd be like driving your car down the road and you realize that you're off the track you need to be in. You're over the white line on the edge of the road. So you stop, jack the car up, and scoot it over to fix it.
Yeah.
See, that's fixing it. That's fixing what happened.
Yeah.
No, you can't fix it. It already happened. It's too late. So what do you do with your car? You're over here, across the white line. You re-show that car where to be. And hopefully you don't overcorrect and have a wreck. No different with your horse.
Is that where horses are feeling criticized?
Oh, yeah.
Because we're late.
We're late. We're trying to fix what already took place. The horse, he's in this moment.
Mm.
Humans in that moment that already happened.
Mm.
They aren't together. So he doesn't know why this is happening to him. So you re-show him where to be. Well, sometimes in the re-showing the horse how to get over here between your legs and reins, you get a little firm because he's pushing against you. So you firm up a little, get a change, and he gets a little trouble. Well, people think that you're punishing or correcting or doing something, see, but you're not. You're just trying to help him refine the line that he ought to be on.
Sounds very simple. But it's not in reality, because so many people struggle with it.
You use your reins and your legs to block everything that's leaking. And you got to feel what the crookedness is, what's taking place within the horse there. Mm. And is it a physical crookedness? How they just learn to carry themselves? Or is it a really coming from the mental side? So I call it a mental crookedness. That he's wanting to be somewhere else, so his body's prepared to go over there where he wants to be, and we're wanting to ride here. Well, you've got to feel, if it's mental, then why? What's it going to take to help him get centered with you if he feels a little desperate, wants to get away from you? Mm. How can you get him centered up here and get him confident here to be here? See? So there's a lot of pieces there.
And there's a lot of people getting more and more keen on riding mules in England, but people can really get into a difficult situation with a mule. You know?
Really?
The mule owners watching, it's similar but different with a mule. They both got minds and emotions, but the donkey part in there. What can you say any more about?
No, I could probably say a lot, but if people don't understand the other half,
The donkey part.
the donkey half, then they're going to wonder where some things come from. They're going to struggle with getting things to work, stuff. It's no different than with a horse, and yet it's different.
In what way?
You're still working with that mind, trying to get them to believe it was their idea, but I talk about donkey time, because if you've worked with any donkeys, you've got to give them time. You can't hurry it.
Okay.
No, and it's I don't know. It seems to help to me to talk about other things, but just because I want to talk about cows doesn't mean that other people relate to that. But I want to say that there's time with the cow that you need to put a little pressure on, or she'll never choose to go where you're trying to go. And there's other times that you don't dare put an ounce of pressure because she's going to. The only thing on her mind is how to get back past you. So if you crowd her, she's just going to put more effort in the thought that's on her mind. But there's a moment in there when her thought changes, and then you might wait.
Yeah.
And she'll go over. And there's another time when they're looking and unsure, you better put just a little pressure or they might have another thought, see? And so you need to kind of catch that. But I think about that, see, with a donkey, there's a time to wait. You don't dare put any pressure.
Yeah.
And I say don't put any pressure, but you don't dare increase the pressure. See, heap too much pressure, because if that donkey's stuck. But a donkey will think things over a lot longer than a horse will, whether it's safe to do it or not. And he needs that time. Now, one donkey might take way longer than another one, so you got to be careful generalizing. Well, then you get to a mule, he's only half donkey, so sometimes he acts like a horse, sometimes he's acting like the donkey, and sometimes he's acting like the donkey that needs a lot of donkey time, and sometimes he's like the donkey that doesn't need much donkey time. So you got to feel and read what's taking place there. But the other thing you don't do with a mule, or you might regret doing, I guess.
You can do,
but you might regret, is too many repetitions of something. And a horse really is no different, except a horse won't totally shut down or lose interest with quite a few repetitions like a donkey. Donkey, you get something, you better just take it and go on to something else. Now you might come back in a few moments after you've done some other little thing, come back, repeat. But just to drill on something, they won't tolerate it near like a horse. So a mule, you drill too much there, and you'll lose ground instead of gain ground. So get 2 or 3 good ones, go on, find something else to do. Like I said, you might go do something else for 2-3 minutes, come back, boom, not a problem.
And what about touch? How much does a donkey appreciate touch in the way that a horse might? I suppose it's how you touch, not.
Well, for anything, that's real. How you touch them, the meaning behind it, etc. But it can be very meaningful to a donkey. You bet. They don't. Sometimes it's just not expressed like it is with a horse, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And so a horse is much more out and expressed with it, whereas a donkey kind of hang back and not. But yeah, any of them. And I don't know that in the start, a lot of times the petting's not that meaningful.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
But they'll learn over time. I've seen horses that actually didn't want to be touched. They did not feel good to them, and they almost get angry. I mean, and I hate to put that word on a horse, but they pin their ears and act like they're going to bite you. But if you can get that mind centered up here and touch them when everything is as peaceful within the horse as can be, pretty soon they start to associate that touch with that good moment. Yeah. Pretty soon that touch, oh, good. But the other piece is, whether it's your hand petting them or an object they're worried about, when it makes contact and it doesn't hurt, there's an instant change, just instant. And so to touch them with something, you don't have to, people want to get in there and try to rub the hair plumb off.
Right, too much.
All you got to do is touch them. And that touch can have so much meaning. It's amazing. But they know that all's going to be well.
Yeah, I've seen you go in and touch them on the face, and that either centers them or not.
Well, and years ago, people would ask me, why do you get a horse to stop there facing you and you just go up, pet down their face and walk away? Well, I didn't know. I knew I needed to do it. It was necessary, but I didn't know how to explain it. And then as I thought about it, I realized that the walking up and touching them like that, stroking down their face, was not the important part. The important part is you reach to stroke their face and they won't let you. Now that is very important. Because when a horse doesn't feel right inside, when he's troubled inside, his self-preservation kicks in. All his senses are on high alert. We walk right up to touch him right in the middle of his face. We're in the middle of his ability to see, hear, smell. Boy, he'll do everything he can because he wants to keep...
we're in the way.
Oh, yeah, we're in the way, see. And so to walk up, to get that mind centered enough that you can touch. Sometimes all you can do is take one finger and touch. Just touch the hairs right there, and you step away quick, because if you stayed there longer, he couldn't take it. That's too much pressure, see. Yeah. But boy, he had his mind centered up for a moment. And that gets real strong between the human and the horse if you get that working.
And that will carry over to the riding.
Oh, you get to where you can touch them then when they're going along on a line or something, and you can just reach and touch them somewhere sides on their face, but it's still that when that touch, they know all is well. So.
Well, that leads me to think about the use of your legs when riding. I think this would have been about 10 years ago. You rode a horse.
Did you discover your legs?
I realized I had a pair of legs 10 years ago. Pretty much. Well, that is pretty much when this happened. Because it was the end of the day, and we were in you called them a mule, those little like cart, well, like a
Kawasaki mule. Yeah.
Yeah, not a real mule,
right,
a machine one. We were going up to feed the horses, and I said, the way you use your legs seems to really affect a horse in a positive way. Well, I think it was kind of late, and you'd had enough questions probably. I was following you around like a fly. Harry. And you said, well, I've got my legs wrapped around a horse's feelings. And then you just looked off and drove off, and that was it. And then I think I was leaving the next day, and I thought, I'm going to have to think about this for a year or so, till I came back. Could you explain that to people listening? You've got your legs wrapped around a horse's feelings. Well, there's not many books that you read that say that. They say, put your right leg forward to affect the shoulder, put your leg back a bit to correct the quarters.
When in using your legs there, and in blocking, I mentioned earlier, they're leaking out every corner. When they get centered between your legs, there's a cradling effect that is like holding a child or holding a scared dog or something. That you can hold them in a way that feels good, that there's a safety within that or something. And you don't think about the physicalness of it, see? It's those feelings that, a scared child, a scared dog, something.
Yeah.
You hold it, you think about the feelings, you know.
The empathy again.
And so you don't try to contain them, because that just scare them
Cause
more.
them to leave.
Yeah. And you don't hold them too light, because then they don't feel very secure that you're really there. And so there's a feeling there that comes in, but it's their, I think about their feelings, not the physical thing.
Yeah, because most people will think about that in a shop. You know, they feel something, they pick something. It's their hands. You know, that I don't know if there's many people that think about that feeling with their legs. So it's like a whole body.
Yeah, it's just like holding, that's the best I can come up with, holding a child and a worried child, see. And you hold them in a way that's comforting. And so you take your legs and you comfort that horse. You're not criticizing, you aren't punishing, you aren't containing, you're comforting with the leg.
Yeah. And that's what I see. I see when you're on a horse, that change that comes in them. They don't feel criticized. They are.
But that again, see, just like that touch we was talking about, is something you have to develop between you and the horse. Because they don't know. And most horses, the only thing of course I'm talking, most of what I talk about is a horse who's has not got good feelings about a human. Because that's what comes to clinics.
Yeah.
If things were good,
yes.
they wouldn't bother bringing them probably.
Yeah, of course.
So they show up and the legs don't feel good to them. And so you got to develop that. Show them, no, this, no. Right here, this could feel good between you.
And that comes from the empathy, from their position, not criticizing or blaming them.
Right.
It is through wanting to help them feel better.
And what I said earlier, not taking it personal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Horse just doing the best he can. Have you ever been in a situation where things did not feel good and there was a lot of pressure on you and stuff and you were doing the very best you possibly could, but it wasn't working out? You have nothing more to do, to give. And it's still working out bad.
Yeah.
Pretty desperate.
Yeah.
So to help that horse find that this could be good, see.
Yeah. So
And there might be some little bitty spot that it starts to feel better to the horse. Not even close to what maybe the owner said they wanted to work on when they brought the horse in.
Yeah.
But you get this little feeling between. Pretty soon you grow that. And the touch and the feel of the legs, everything, that all means something.
And just your presence, just to walk in the pen, in the round pen or the arena, or to go to the field, to go to the stable. Just your presence, I guess, doesn't necessarily mean a thing initially, but it becomes something they rely on.
Well, and at the start, because you get in the middle of a horse's thoughts, the second time, third time you work them, it might look worse when you walk in. Because they don't want they've lived their whole life with nobody in the middle of their thinking. And all of a sudden, here's somebody who knows what they're thinking and is in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's concerning.
And boy, they don't want anything to do with that. See, they don't know how to handle it. And it comes down to, people use the word leadership a lot, but if a horse doesn't have a good feeling about leadership coming from a human, then when you go in and start messing with their thoughts, then that troubles them even more, see? Because they've been able to be around a human and just hang on to their own thoughts about how good it'd be to be somewhere else. And all of a sudden you're saying, well, you could be around me and not think about that. And they're like, oh. But in moments it'll come through. See, I say moments. It might take a few minutes, the second or third time when you walk in the pen and that horse takes off and go. But in a few minutes he's right there, and then it gets even stronger because they realize that this is a good thing. But they fall back to that. And because this has been as intense as it has, it'll look worse for a day or two or six, and then then it starts looking real.
I've got a picture in my mind of, we see loads of magazines, horse magazines, and someone's smiling there and they're holding onto the horse, and the horse is just looking off way into the distance.
Yeah.
And you see it in magazine after magazine, and you just can't get away from it. It's like we're programmed to be thinking that's okay.
Yep.
I have a strong memory of when we were at your place in Salone, in Arizona, and I think you had to go get something. And you said to me to hold Sandy, your horse. I mean, how long did you have Sandy? He was with you a long time, wasn't he? But, anyway, I was by the container where you had all the tack, and it was the end of the day, and everyone was running around wrapping things up. And so you just kind of put the lead rope over my arm and said he'd be back. Well, it was like holding a dog. It was unbelievable. His eyes, I just thought, I'm not going to get in the way of this. I'm just going to watch. It was like he was tied up, but he knew he was with me. He knew you were going somewhere. He didn't try to go. He followed you with his eyes. It was remarkable. I don't know, you went over there, you chatted to someone, you just walked, and you went over there, and you went in the bunkhouse, the accommodation there, and when you came out, he did a little nicker, and he didn't try to go. He knew he was to wait, and that really fascinated me, because I've never held a horse for anyone and experienced that before. The connection between you and him, and that you see when you talk about leadership, that's not you bossing him around and all. It's a relationship, it's a partnership. I witnessed there that you rely on him as much as he relies on you, and there's a closeness there that was very special to see. That was a good experience for me to witness that, really. And then, you came back, you took him, and off you went. And he won. That's, it helps me think back to that moment. What can be.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we realise what can be. I mean, I would have never realised that was possible. But to see it, to witness that. You've given us a lot to think about today. See you next year.
Messed with your mind thinking about a horse's mind.
Mess with our minds thinking about a horse's mind. Right, we better feed some hay.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.